For a long time, corporate success was defined in bold, visible numbers: revenue growth, market share gains, geographic expansion, headcount increases. The bigger the company became, the more successful it was perceived to be. Scale was the scoreboard, speed was the signal. But quietly, over the past few years, that definition has begun to change. There has been a subtle shift in how companies define success. Today, success is being measured less by how fast a company expands and more by how well it endures. This shift did not happen overnight. It evolved through repeated cycles of volatility. Supply chain disruptions exposed operational fragility. Inflation spikes pressured margins. Interest rate increases raised the cost of debt. Demand fluctuations made forecasting more difficult. In that environment, companies began to realize that rapid growth alone does not guarantee strength. The new definition of success emphasizes durability. Instead of celebrating revenue growth at any cost, leadership teams are prioritizing sustainable profitability. Instead of expanding into every possible market, companies are deepening their advantage in core segments. Instead of maximizing headcount, they are maximizing productivity. These changes may appear subtle, but they reflect a structural recalibration. One of the clearest signs of this shift is the growing emphasis on free cash flow. In previous years, companies could focus heavily on top-line growth while deferring profitability. Investors were willing to wait. Today, consistent cash generation is often viewed as a stronger signal of success than aggressive expansion. Cash flow represents flexibility. It funds innovation, protects against downturns, and reduces reliance on external financing. Margins have also become central to how companies define achievement. Stable or expanding operating margins signal operational discipline. They demonstrate that growth is efficient rather than expensive. In uncertain markets, efficiency often matters more than size. Another element of this subtle shift is predictability. Businesses that can deliver steady performance quarter after quarter are increasingly valued over those with dramatic but volatile growth patterns. Success is no longer just about peak performance, it is about consistency. Risk management has entered the conversation in a more meaningful way. Previously, risk was often considered secondary to growth. Today, boards and executive teams treat resilience as a core objective. Companies are strengthening balance sheets, diversifying supply chains, and building contingency plans. Surviving volatility without severe disruption has become a marker of competence. This change is also visible in hiring strategies. Rapid workforce expansion once signaled momentum. Now companies are more cautious. Productivity metrics, automation investments, and cross-functional flexibility are prioritized. Success is defined not by the number of employees, but by output per employee. Technology investments reflect the same evolution. Rather than launching ambitious digital transformations without clear returns, companies are targeting specific operational improvements. Measurable outcomes are required. Strategic discipline has replaced experimentation for its own sake. Customer relationships are being viewed differently as well. Instead of chasing maximum customer acquisition at any cost, businesses are focusing on retention, lifetime value, and loyalty. Depth is replacing breadth. A stable base of engaged customers can provide more long-term value than constant expansion into new segments. The subtle shift in how companies define success also extends to leadership tone. Bold, sweeping promises are less common. Guidance is more measured. Executives are careful not to overcommit. Delivering slightly above conservative expectations is often seen as more powerful than missing ambitious projections. This shift is closely connected to the cost of capital. Higher interest rates and more selective financing conditions have increased accountability. Investments must clear higher thresholds. Capital allocation decisions are examined more closely. Success is increasingly linked to how effectively resources are deployed, not just how much revenue is generated. Global uncertainty reinforces this mindset. Geopolitical developments, regulatory changes, and economic data releases can quickly alter sentiment. Companies that define success purely by expansion risk becoming vulnerable when conditions change. Those that define success by stability and adaptability are better positioned. Importantly, this evolution does not eliminate ambition. Innovation remains critical. Growth still matters. But growth is being pursued within a framework of discipline. Companies are sequencing risk rather than embracing it all at once. There is also a cultural impact. Employees increasingly value stability and clarity. Organizations that balance ambition with sustainability often foster stronger morale. Constant strategic pivots and aggressive expansion can create internal fatigue. A steady path builds trust. Investors are reinforcing this recalibration. Valuation premiums are often awarded to companies with predictable earnings, strong balance sheets, and disciplined management teams. Volatility, even when accompanied by high growth, can lead to skepticism. The subtle shift in how companies define success reflects a broader understanding of modern markets. Volatility is not temporary, it is embedded in the system. Technology cycles accelerate disruption. Global interdependence amplifies shocks. Under these conditions, resilience becomes as valuable as scale. Companies are redefining success around four pillars: sustainable profitability, operational efficiency, financial flexibility, and strategic focus. Growth remains important, but it is no longer the sole measure. This new definition is less dramatic but more durable. It favors steady execution over spectacle. It values preparedness over optimism. It rewards control over expansion. In the past, being the biggest often equated to being the strongest. Today, being the most stable, the most disciplined, and the most adaptable may matter more. The shift may be subtle, but its impact is significant. Success is no longer measured only by how far a company can reach, but by how firmly it stands. And in a world defined by uncertainty, that redefinition may be the most strategic evolution of all.